Hello everyone, it's the storyteller here. I've prepared something slow, eerie, and sleep-friendly for you tonight. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and let me know in the comments. Are you drifting off already, or still wide awake? Don't tell anyone it keeps following me, all the time. I've been feeling it for days now, this eerie sensation of being watched. This morning, an envelope slipped under my door. No name, no return address, just a single line written in red ink. Come to the garden on Elm at midnight. Don't be late. My first thought was that it was a prank, maybe a mistake. But deep down, I knew it wasn't. I felt that same strange, heavy sensation in my chest, the feeling of being watched. Whoever's been following me wants me to come to this meeting. I should ignore it. It's driving me mad, circling in my head over and over. It doesn't make sense. Why would anyone ask me to meet them in a garden I've never visited? I don't leave this room. I can't leave this room. The thought of stepping outside makes my chest tighten like the poisonous air. The walls aren't walls anymore. They're closing in, pressing closer each day, shrinking until no room is left. I can feel a slow constriction, like the tightening grip of a snake coiling around my chest. It was there again. I felt its rancid and sour breath hovering just behind my neck, the cold seeping into my bones. The buzzing, crawling under my skin, burrowing deep, an itch I can't reach, is maddening. I dug my nails into my arms again and tore at the skin until the blood flowed warm and sticky. It hurt, but I didn't stop. The red smeared against the white of the sheets like some twisted artwork. I laughed. I laughed because the pain reminded me I was still here, that I wasn't gone yet, not entirely. But the blood, the warmth, it didn't last. It never does. The cold always comes back, dragging me under. I've spent the whole day staring at the envelope, trying to make sense of everything. What does he mean, don't be late? I opened the envelope earlier, but it only made things worse. Inside was a single photograph, a picture of me, taken through the window of my room. The timestamp showed it was taken 2 nights ago, right around when I started feeling like I was being watched. But my room doesn't have a window. It is still me in that photograph. But how? October 12th. I didn't go. I don't know why. I sat here, staring at the clock, watching the minutes crawl by until midnight came and went. I couldn't move. My legs felt heavy like they were stuck to the floor. The envelope is still here where I left it, taunting me. I can't shake the feeling that I wrote it. It's ridiculous. Why would I send something to myself? I checked my desk drawer where I kept my pens and paper, but they were all where I left them. Still, that handwriting is mine. I know it is. I can't deal with that right now. I didn't sleep last night. Or maybe I did. I can't tell anymore. The line between waking and dreaming has blurred into a haze like thick and endless fog rolling in from the sea. I lie there, staring at the ceiling, counting the cracks. They're growing, splintering outwards like delicate spider webs. I wonder if they'll reach me, if they'll come down in shards of plaster and dust, burying me alive. I wouldn't mind. When I close my eyes, I see it clearer now. The dark mass, the shape it takes. God, it's horrific. It's all wrong. Its body is twisted, its limbs are too long, joints are bent at impossible angles, and the skin is slick and black like oil, dripping. And its face, or what should be a face, it shifts, twisting like clay, eyes forming then disappearing, mouths opening and closing, filled with rows of jagged teeth. It stood at the foot of my bed last night, I felt it staring, even though there were no eyes. The weight of its gaze crushed me into the mattress. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. My heart pounded so loud I was sure it would burst out of my chest. I could feel it feeding off that fear, growing stronger, reveling in my helplessness. October 13th. I didn't take the pills today. They're trying to poison me. I see it in their eyes when they hand them to me. Their fake smiles stretched too thin. The red-haired one, she's the worst. She is always cheerful. She thinks I'm too far gone to notice. But I do. I notice everything. She came by earlier. I didn't like the way she looked at me, like I'm an animal. I smiled back at her and watched her flinch. She thinks I'm docile, but she doesn't know. She doesn't know what's been following me, what's been whispering in my ear. The envelope's still here, on the nightstand, staring at me. Why can't I stop thinking about it? Why can't I just let it go? The garden on Elm. It's not real. I know that. I know I never wrote it. But sometimes, in the quiet moments, I wonder. What if it's me? What if I've been sending these things to myself all along? Number. That's impossible. I wouldn't do that. I scratched at the walls today, tried to tear them down and tried to escape. I could feel it closing in, but the walls wouldn't give. My fingers bled, my nails broken, but the walls held firm, cold, and unforgiving. I could hear it whispering through the cracks. I can't understand the words, but know they're meant for me. October 14th. The feeling was more vital and intense today. It's getting closer and more aggressive. Every step I took, every corner I turned, was right there. The light stretches it out, twisting it longer and pulling it closer until I feel drowning. I've feared so many things, but nothing like this. It started when I was a kid. My stepfather had this way of punishing me when I did something wrong. He'd shove me into the closet in the basement and lock the door. I can still hear the click of the lock, that final sound before the darkness swallowed me whole. And I remember the worst day. The day it came. It was one of the longest times he'd left me there overnight. I don't remember what I did to deserve it. The punishment lasted longer than usual. I screamed at first, banging on the door, but no one came. They never did. The darkness wrapped itself around me, smothering my cries. It was like a blanket of silence, pressing in closer and closer until the only sound I could hear was my own heartbeat, frantic in my chest. The hunger came first, gnawing at my insides like a rat chewing through bone. Then, the thirst. My lips cracked, and every breath was dry and sharp. The need to go to the bathroom hit next, but I held it for hours, clutching my stomach, praying he'd let me out. But he didn't. Eventually, I couldn't hold it anymore. The urine soaked into my clothes, warm and humiliating at first, then cold and stinking as it mixed with the damp, musty air of the closet. The smell filled the tiny space, suffocating me and burning my nose. I cried, not from pain, but from the shame, the filth. And then, hours later, or maybe minutes, I don't know, that happened too. I had nowhere to go. I couldn't hold it. The shit pressed out of me, warm and sticky, and I felt it spread beneath me as I sat on the wooden floor. The smell was unbearable. My skin crawled with it, with the filth of my own body betraying me, trapped in that black hole of a closet. And that's when I felt it. I can still remember the exact moment. The darkness had changed. It wasn't just empty anymore. It was watching me. It was alive. The air had shifted and thickened, like something had slipped into the closet with me. I froze, my body trembling, my throat dry and raw from screaming. My heart pounded in my chest, each beat like a drum, slow and sickening. I couldn't see it, but I knew it was there. I could feel it hovering just out of reach. A presence. It wasn't like the darkness that had always terrified me. It was something far worse, something that was feeding on my fear, on the filth, on the weakness I had become. That's when I first sensed it. Whatever it was, it had slipped into my world and has never left me. October 15th. The nurses, they're scared of me now. I see it in their eyes, how they flinch when I move too quickly, and how they talk in hushed whispers just outside my door. They think I don't notice, but I do. The way they look at me, like I'm a rabid dog, something to be caged and kept away. Good. The reddish nurse came again today. Her smile is unnatural, stretched so tight it looks like it might split her face open. She handed me the pills. Blue ones this time. I took them from her and felt their weight in my hand. But I didn't swallow them. I smiled back at her. Pulling the corners of my mouth up like that felt strange. My face was stiff, unused to the motion. I wonder if she noticed. I let the pills slip from my hand and watched them fall to the floor, bouncing once or twice before disappearing into the shadows. The shadows have been moving more lately, creeping across the floor like they're alive and hungry. I like to watch her bend to pick it up. Every time, her skirt hikes up just enough for me to see the curve of her thighs, the pale skin peeking out from beneath the hem. She does it deliberately. I know she does. She thinks I'm a vegetable, a shattered man with a broken mind locked away inside my own head. She thinks I don't notice. But she's wrong. She doesn't know I'm not alone. I've never been alone. So, she was honestly surprised when I knocked her to the floor. It wasn't hard. She's small, fragile. Her eyes widened, lips parting in shock as I grabbed her and shoved her down. Her breath hitched, a sharp air intake, and I could feel the excitement, the pulse of something dark and wild rushing through me. It wasn't me. I wasn't in control. It wasn't my fault. It wasn't my fault. I didn't want to hurt her. It wasn't me. It was the thing that's been with me all along. The thing that's been watching now, waiting and feeding. It pushed me, whispered in my prank ear, and told me what to do. I didn't have a choice. She cried out, but the buzzing in my head and the ticking clock muffled her voice. I could barely hear her. I could scarcely feel her anymore. Everything was slipping away, fading into the hum, into the dark. It's inside me now. I can feel it crawling under my skin, controlling my wants and thoughts. It's too late. I can't stop it anymore. I'm laughing again. I can't help it. The sound bubbles up from deep inside me, harsh and cracked. It echoes off the walls, filling the room. The nurse looks up at me with wide, terrified eyes, her breath coming in ragged gasps. She doesn't understand. She will. They all will. October 16th. I woke up choking on my own breath. It was standing over me, I swear. A dark mass, shifting, warping, like it was trying to decide what shape to take. My body was frozen. I couldn't move. I couldn't scream. All I could do was watch as it hovered, staring, the cold of it seeping into my skin like ice. It didn't touch me. Not yet. But I couldn't feel it anymore. So close. I've heard about sleep paralysis. The doctors like to throw that term around like it explains everything. But this was different. It wasn't a hallucination. It wasn't a dream. It was real. It was there, watching me with eyes that didn't exist. I laughed. I couldn't help it. The laugh just bubbled up out of me, desperate, choking. I laughed because what else could I do? What else do you do when the thing following you for years finally finds its way into your room? They put me in isolation after that. She said I was disturbing the others. I was screaming, they said, but I wasn't. It was the laugh. It's funny, really. It's funny how no one else sees it. The lights flickered today. I counted the seconds between the flickers. 3, then 5, then 8, then 1. Erratic, like something was playing with the switch. It's toying with me now. That's fine. Let it play its game. I scratched at my arm until the skin broke. The nurses tried to stop me, but I didn't care. I needed to feel something. The pain is real. The blood is real. Thick, warm, dripping down my fingers. I let it pool in my palm for a moment, staring at warmth. It and watching it glisten in the pale light. It's funny how thirsty you get. I tasted it, just a little. Just enough to remember what it feels like to be alive. It tastes like metal, sharp and bitter, but it's mine. They found me after that and tried to patch me up, but they couldn't stop me from bleeding. They can't stop what's already inside me. The buzzing is louder now. It's deafening. October 17th. The walls. They're wrong today. I don't know how to explain it, but they feel different. The texture is off, as if the paint is peeling away to reveal something underneath. I scraped at the surface until my fingers bled again, nails tearing against the plaster. I had to know. I had to see what was underneath. It was hollow. Behind the walls was nothing, just darkness, an endless void stretching out forever. I could feel the pull of it, dragging me in and whispering promises of relief and escape. But it's a lie. I know what's really waiting in that darkness. It's there, waiting for me to slip. I won't. Not yet. October 19th. Everything is sharper today. The edges are too bright, too hard. The air smells of chemicals, bleach, ammonia, and something sweet and sickly. I gagged when I woke up, the stench clinging to my skin and the sheets. The buzzing in the light is louder than ever, a constant hum that vibrates through my teeth, rattling my bones. I saw it again this morning, not just a flicker. No, this time, it was there, fully formed, standing in the corner, watching, waiting. Its face, oh God, its face, was mine, twisted and distorted, like looking into a broken mirror, the features all wrong, stretched, eyes too big, mouth too wide, filled with jagged teeth. I screamed. I screamed until my throat was raw, and my voice gave out, but no one came. No one heard me. They never do. Do you hear that? No, you don't. You're sitting there, comfortable, safe, reading this like it's just the ramblings of a madman. But you're wrong. It's not me that's crazy. It's you. You don't see it yet. But you will. You'll feel it soon enough. It's always there, waiting, watching, lurking in the corners, just beyond the light. I'm sorry for you. I really am. You'll understand soon enough. You'll realize it's been watching you too. It'll slip into your room and mind, just like it did with me. And when it does, when you finally see your shadow, don't be stupid. Don't be like me. They won't believe you, and it'll only make it stronger. Be clever. Be silent. Oh, Mother, please send my father across. It was all a dream. Merle's breath, like rotten fish on top of her tongue. The balled-up, gray, dead mass of it settled at the back of her throat, like stale phlegm. His beady, stained tongue wriggling around on top of her tongue, his hand under her blouse, fumbling, scratching, his nails yellow and black and green, the sight of which made her vomit. His puss-filled, bandaged hand on top of her breast, the nail digging into her nipple, the dirt in his nails mixing with her blood. In her blood, the blood cool in the thick heat of the dark room, sweet, mixing with the scent of the vomit dried on the floor. She had dreamt it in the night, writhing like a dying fish, a pool of yellow sweat, unable to scream for all the phlegm in her throat, the fat tongue in her mouth, the eyes in the window. The eyes were from a long ago dream, black, a darkness darker than the black heat of the room, a self-eating darkness, turning inwards, 2 holes in the dark, like the memory of the snake's fangs on Amma's black skin. 2 eyes watching her, watching itself. 2 eyes like holes in the heat. She could slip away like vapor, like smoke, like the silver mist over the river. The river, black in the night, black and shining, winking like the silt around it, silver and loose, a million glinting eyes winking in the black night, the air ripe with the sour promise of raw mangoes, teasing and winking from the branches. Among them, the glinting brown eyes, cat-like of Muna, sitting on the branch naked, his long, cat-like body shining fluorescent, blue and violet, in the dark night. Ladki, he whispered to her, want a mango? His words tinged with the stale scent of a biedi, fishy. In the river, there were fishes as small as a dot, dark and invisible, holes in the river, moving eyes. The big fish did not swim. They stared at her, their mouths sending a bubble up the surface of the water, which burst with a quiet pop, waiting for her answer. Pop, 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 Munia, she asked. Not ripe yet, Muna said, and laughed, revealing a scurvy mouth with wiggling teeth, like maggots. With each shake of the shoulder, a ha up and a he down, the teeth dropped down, raining like mangoes, too impatient, too ripe and restless, dropping with a pop, pop, pop. As they dropped and popped down, the night black rats gathered them up and scuttled away. An undulating, shadowy tide, whispering, an underground mousy susurrus, like the restrained gossip, sisak, sisak, of the leaves in the night wind, conspiring. Amma had said it was rubbish, that the Aam tree was Aam, spiritless, spirits having no cravings for the mango. It was all make-believe, make-believe, just whispers, conspiring. But this changed when she saw Muna's body, the penis chopped off, dangling from the tree. And now he was sitting beside it, kicking it absent-mindedly once in a while so that it went swinging, a Sawan swing scene. Munia began to sing now, bellowing in the night, quiet. Amma, mere baba ko pejori, ki sawan aya. Mother, please send my father across. Now the rains have come. And with her voice, the rains came down, quiet at first, trickling down her forehead, down her back, like sweat, mixing with the sweat into a vaporous headache. But soon, as Munia's bellowing grew more hysterical, stretched and cracked, the rain gained violence, sheets after sheets crashing down on the earth. Dum-dum-dum, ta-dum, ta-dum-dum. There was no song in this rain, nothing sacred, no rhythm, no melody. It was the roar of primeval war drums, the shanknad breaking out of the sky's raging core, bloodthirsty, furious. The mango trees were screaming in anguish as their branches convulsed, epileptic, suicidal, wanting to break free, but the roots unyielding, circling tighter and tighter around their ankles, cutting off the blood, then cutting into the skin, circling tighter and tighter till they were bleeding. They were bleeding and screaming, their blood washed out by the rain. The earth was bleeding, pools of blood, pools of filth running down the mango grove, running down the fields, running down the streets, running down to the river, running down. She looked at Muna, hanging on to the branch, swinging in the rain, the noose getting tighter and tighter, choking, screaming out into the rain. Amma, mere baya ko bejori. She knew that the flow of the dream, the black river, with the pop-pop fish, with the mango carcasses, with the winking stars in its belligerent waters, was running down to the void, the shunya that was inside her, the void that she was made to cover with her sari and petticoat, her red bangles and black bindi, the red dye on her feet, and the toe rings which cut into her skin. The shunya that was a red field, with Amma's corpse lying among the bent-down barley, the teeth-girdled void inside her stomach, as she watched her running towards the mango grove in her shit-stained sari, the blouse torn off, running to the branch that was no longer weighed down by Muna's incomplete body, the void that no baba, no bhai, no mama could cross, a bottomless pit. What could Sawan do? The shunya spelled out by the noose around Muna's neck. The shunya Murli was trying to prod with his puss-filled fingers and his puss-filled organ. The shunya that was a dream, the void that was this dream that was a void, flowing, rushing down into the night, to where the black river came to a halt at the dried-up vomit puddle, out of which she emerged into the dark room once again. Her body felt slimy, putrid, a mix of semi-digested rice, sweat, and the rotten substance of death. Merle's hands pressed tight around her neck, and her neck gave away, turning to sludge. Merle bent down and licked it up, his tongue abrasive, spiky, leaving scars for flies to lay their eggs on. Her breath started to go, and she could hear the thrashing of her heart in her ear. But she repeated to the beat of her thumping heart, "It is all a dream. A dream, a dream." It was all a dream. But it wasn't hers alone. It also belonged to Amma. It was a dream passed on to her, the only dowry Amma could muster, her inheritance. The dream belonged to Muna.2. It was the dream that Amma spun out in the thick heat of the dark room, spinning and spinning. The thread of her word laced with her saliva, the strings of saliva that would purse her lips as she kept mumbling in the dark, spinning, her words indecipherable, a chant, a plea crying out into the night. Muna, Muna Munia Munia. It was the dream that Amma had spun out in the dark night, as the man whom they never called Baba filled the air of the room, humid with his sweaty appetite, heavy with his piggish grunts, filled it with the scent of his beady, which would make Munia sick, filled it with the sight of gray tufts of hair pushing out of his ears, filled it with a heaviness that sat in their stomachs for days, stones in their chests, gray, a shame that stalked them and enwrapped them, entered their bodies, evacuated their innards, rendered their guts hollow, an all-consuming parasite, till they were all sludge, putrid and shameful, wobbly and shapeless, shadows, shunya, the dream that rose above this scent, these sounds, this heaviness, a light, weightless dream that her eyes caught a glimpse of as she had stood there watching, her two eyes glinting in the window. Outside the window, Munaya and her counting the teeth that they had found this week, buried in the silt around the river, buried in the sand like shells, hollow, heavy with the weight of their own insouciance, their own lack, a self-inflicted negligence dropping out of mouths and scuttering around in the sand. Sometimes they found worms inside them, pink and white and sometimes green. They compared the shapes that they found. Munia, claiming her finds to be sharper, while she rubbed hers against her thumb till it turned raw, certain of their supremacy. Sometimes she kept them in her mouth, swirled them around, the taste of dirt, metallic, sour. She sucked at them, like at the stone of the Jaman. Now, Merle's teeth shifted around in her mouth, scuttling down her tongue into her throat, tasting of gutka and anger, scuttling down her body, digging, puncturing the skin, searching for the arteries. A group of 3 scuttled down and lodged into her vagina. And all she could think of was the teeth around the river and the necklace of teeth Munia made for Amma. The same necklace which she ate 1 tooth a time after each meal. Her self-prescribed medicine. Outside the window, Munia and she were watching her with a gray feeling in the pit of their stomach, as Murli laid claim to each part of her body and signed it off with the mixture of her own blood and his own dirt. Outside the window, Munia and she became 2 eyes, superimposed, simultaneous. One, a palimpsest of dreams and bodies and voids and eyes, melted into one. He and her, she and him, her and her, peering in at her mother and her mother, dreaming, drifting out of the window through the holes their eyes burned through the darkness, peering in at herself, the dream of I, Amma, Munia, breathing in the dark. Our bellies swell out in a rhythm. Up, down, up, down. Munia is not Muna now. She won't be Muna again till morning. When morning comes, she will have to leave herself beside me, wrapped up neatly on the pillow. Leave this dream that Amma has spun for us and cross the shore. But it is still night now. Amma is telling us the story of a king who lost all his kingdom, all of whose children died at his own hand by some cruel accident of fate, all of whose wives died of grief, all of whose citizens died of the plague, and all of whose army died at war. Now, what could such a man do in this world? He wandered around the ghost of his kingdom, dreaming. Munaya and I do not believe this story. We contend that such a man should die, would die. And can't death be a dream? Amma asks. I wake up. Murli is shaking. He is done. He turns around and goes off to sleep. I look out of the window. The sun has started to come up. I repeat to myself, it is all a dream, a dream, a dream. Team meeting, 10 a.m., 1 hour. Happy Monday, everyone, Suzanne burbled. Emma used a good deal of restraint and avoided rolling her eyes. A small victory. Her poker face was getting better. Now everyone got the agenda. So first up, we have some housekeeping items. First, congratulations to Melinda on her 6-year work anniversary. Emma dutifully hit the applause reaction button. Then the celebration reaction button. Then, finally, the heart reaction button. She watched as everyone else hit various reaction buttons. Poor Melinda. 6 years was a long time to cosplay an office worker. Melinda was actually cool, though. She once told Emma a knock-knock joke she had come up with. They had just welcomed a new woman to the group, the third Jennifer on their team. Knock, knock, she said. Who's there? Jennifer. Jennifer who? Jennifer. Probably. They laughed and agreed that you could probably just decide to call everyone Jennifer and be right a reasonable percentage of the time. Did everyone really just decide that they should all name their daughters Jennifer for a few years there? Or what? Some kind of mass hysteria caused by fluoride in the water or something? She watched the last few heart animations on the screen fade. Someone put a GIF in the chat of a duck saying, "Conquaculations." She hated herself for chuckling at it. What was happening to her? She privately messaged Melinda, "Wow, get me the duck out of here." Melinda appended a laughing face to her message. She wrote back, "Right? This whole thing is bringing me down." Goofy face emoji with tongue sticking out, Suzanne went on. "Next, I want to remind everyone that self-reviews are due on Friday. Now, I'd really prefer that our team gets them in early. So please, aim for Wednesday, everyone. Don't make me come looking for you." She raised her hand like someone wielding a knife. "Because I'll do it." She laughed. A few people tittered in a tired kind of way. Jen, too, frowned a little and looked uncomfortable. She usually had a pretty sour look, but Frank threw his head back and laughed and laughed. His screen froze for a moment, and he looked absolutely insane. It unfroze, and he sat there grinning. Frank. She wasn't keen on him, but didn't despise him or anything. He sat there with too many teeth showing, wearing one of the corporate t-shirts. It had the Sinbiquity logo, a globe inside a heavy square box, with the one-word sentence, "winning," underneath. Wow. If she ever assimilated that hard, she hoped someone would put a pillow over her face while she slept. Now, once you complete your self-review, your manager will complete their review, and then you'll meet to discuss. She messaged Melinda again. "Ugh, just kill me now." Melinda sent back a GIF of Jack Nicholson breaking through the bathroom door in The Shining. She wrote, "Exceeding expectations." Ha! Emma laughed. She and Melinda smirked at each other on camera and stifled laughs. A self-review. Pfft. Why would you ever say anything other than, "I am knocking it out of the effing park"? What else could you possibly say? Emma should work on not rolling her eyes so much in meetings. Emma should also try being, just all around, a little more chipper. Emma should contribute more gifts in meetings. Maybe you should just effing fire Emma. She smirked a little, then caught herself. Self-review. So absurd. She'd lost the thread of the meeting, but knew it wouldn't matter. She heard Suzanne say something about sweets? No, the C-suite. Oh, God. What now? So, John wants everyone to take an extra training on the core values this quarter. He feels that not everyone is making those their priority. Ah, yes. The core values. What were they again? They all started with the letter I. Integrity, ideas, and what was the last one? Idiocy? She stifled a laugh. Suzanne was running through them now. Remember the 3 I's. Integrity, innovation, involvement. Oh yeah, involvement. Ha. The 3 I's. There are 3 I's in the word inimitable, and indignity, and invisible. If only she was invisible. If only she could just turn her camera off for a bit. She zoned out and doodled a fuzzy little monster with 3 eyes on her Sinbiquity notepad. She started drawing flames around the monster's feet and stuck a little pitchfork in its fuzzy hand. She drew in silhouettes of little cowering people below the monster. Then she drew a word balloon and wrote, "Innovate, damn you," inside it. Wow, time was really dragging. She opened her calendar to check whether this was a half-hour or an hour meeting. Oh no, a full hour. She wasn't listening to Suzanne and thought it would be funny to actually turn her volume off. Could she pretend to listen well enough to get by? Probably. She turned the volume off. She sat there, watching Suzanne speak. A few others nod. She nodded a little, as well. Fascinating. Oh yes, I fully agree. Yes. Absolutely. Yes, you're so right. Her screen got a little pixelated for a moment, froze up, and the color shifted darker. Ha! Suzanne looked like some weird demon for a moment. A trick of the messed up pixels. Oh, too bad. Now the picture was clear again. But Suzanne was showing them all something now, and was gesticulating with her hands. She turned up the volume, in time to hear, "How we shall summon our master, and how he shall know us." What? The duck? Suzanne continued showing them a complicated set of hand gestures. She stopped, and her eyes rolled back in her head for a moment. Was she making that weird noise too? Like a crackly N sound that got louder and softer with her hand movements. She finished a series of complex hand contortions. Then she began again. A few people were half-heartedly trying to copy her. Frank seemed to be getting it, and now he was doing it with her. They contorted their hands in a strangely herky-jerky manner, pulling back 2 fingers on one hand with the other hand, now fluttering both hands, using one hand like a claw over the other, bunched up fist. How could he learn it that fast? What was this? Some kind of crazy team-building exercise? Suddenly, Suzanne said sharply, "Emma!" She jumped a little in her chair. Then Suzanne and Frank said together, "Why aren't you participating, Emma?" They continued the complex hand movements. Now it looked like Elise was managing to do it exactly in sync with Suzanne and Frank as well. Emma unmuted her microphone and said, "Oh, I was just trying to watch until I felt I could jump in." Suzanne and Frank and Elise said together, "Just do it. Do it now." She held up her hands and flopped them around a little. Wow, Frank and Elise really drank the Kook-Aid fast, didn't they? This was a very strange meeting. But scanning her co-workers on the screen, they all seemed to find it normal. Dull in its usualness, in fact. Suzanne, Frank, and Elise continued the weird hand movements, encouraging the others to try to follow them. Jake seemed to be getting the hang of it as well, although his square on the screen was so dark, it was hard to tell for sure. Melinda waved her hands ineffectually. Walter and Gen.2 were doing the movements, just a few moments after the others, but actually seemed to be working on learning them. Emma put on the raised hand button. "Yes, Emma, you have a question," Suzanne said. She unmuted her microphone. "Yes, I don't understand the point of this exercise. Is this supposed to be team building or something?" "Oh, yes," said Suzanne. "It's definitely team building." Emma frowned. Was Suzanne having some kind of mental break? She went to message Melinda privately, but couldn't enter anything in the chat window. Ugh, now what? Emma watched Suzanne's hands going through their complicated set of gestures. It was kind of mesmerizing. Emma roused herself. Had she fallen asleep in the meeting? She couldn't have. She checked the time. It didn't seem to have advanced at all. But outside, it seemed to be growing dark. How long had they been in this meeting now? She looked at her co-workers in their small square cells. Suzanne, Frank, Elise, and Gen.2 continued doing the hand motions. Some of the others were now sitting away from their desks, a few in the far corners of their rooms. Mary was almost entirely off-screen, but you could still see a piece of her red sweater and her hand, a red line on the right-hand side of her screen, and her twitching fingers coming in and out of view. Walter was standing facing the wall, not moving. It was pretty creepy, actually. It was time to get the hell out of Dodge, she thought. She clicked on the leave button. Nothing happened. She hit the escape key. Nothing. She tried to close the laptop, but it seemed to be stuck open somehow. Control, Alt, Delete. Nothing. She stood up from her chair, intent on leaving the room. She crossed to the door and reached out for the doorknob, and found herself on the other side of the room, still walking forward. What? She tried again. This time, when she got to the door, she reached out her hand, but the doorknob was very hot. It burned her hand with an audible sizzle. She pulled her hand back with a yelp. She put her burnt fingers in her mouth for a moment, sobbing a little. She went to the windows of her home office and tried to open one, even though she was on the second floor. It wouldn't budge. She grabbed her chair, thinking she would smash it through a window. She couldn't lift it off the ground. It was as if the wheels were heavily magnetized to the floor. She sat back down in her chair, shoulders slumping. She looked at the screen again. Suzanne, Frank, Elise, and Jen, too, were sitting facing their cameras, smiling and continuing the strange hand movements. She closed her eyes for a moment. She thought, is nobody going to say it? She straightened and looked around the room wildly. She put on the raised hand icon and pretended to sit patiently for a moment. Yes, Emma, she said to herself. You have a comment? Crazy laughter bubbled up inside her, but she caught it in her throat and swallowed hard instead. We can't leave here. We are in some kind of twisted trap. Is this hell? I mean, it sure seems like hell, all right. A never-ending meeting. Nobody answered her. One person hit the applause reaction. We need to do something. Call someone. Pull the plug on our computers, maybe? How long will it take the batteries to die? Melinda, look at me. Melinda raised her face to the camera. Her face had 4 red lines on each side, where she had repeatedly clawed her fingers down her face. She seemed to stare directly at Emma, mouthing some words over and over. Mel. Emma put her head down on her arms and cried. Suzanne finally said brightly, Okay, we've heard from Emma. Frank and Elise mouthed the same words as she said them, nodding. Now, if nobody else has any off-topic items, let's get back to the agenda from the Catacombs. I open my bloodshot eyes and watch the shadows dance from the flickering torches hanging on the cold, dripping bricks. My legs and buttocks are numb, but I can't deny the annoying sensation coming from my right hallux. I see a pair of tiny red eyes looking up at me. My mind screams in silent terror as a piece of flesh is torn from just below my curved toenail. The rats are unrelenting in their quest for flesh. My long tenure in this malicious prison has eroded the cobblestone floor. Thick iron chains keep me anchored to the ground. And in this madness of delirium, not one soul can hear my screams. The moisture seeps into my skin, and words from my captors echo through my disillusioned conscience. You will beg for death in the end. For the past 2 years, my body has been rotting away, or at least, I think it's been that long. One tends to lose track of time when your freedom has been shackled. It's hard to discern reality from illusion. The mind creates walls to shield itself from unnecessary damage, but only after your psyche is shredded and hanging by a thread. Oh, the irony. I rub my lanky fingers down the ridges of my shirtless sternum until I reach the white, tattered rags tied around my bony hips. There, I find my salvation. A forgotten photograph the wretches missed during their extensive searches upon my arrival here. Seeing the brittle paper in the roaming light makes my lips curl upward. Ah, my beautiful Reina. Her exquisite cocoa eyes pierce my soul, and her soft red lips ignite a fire in my heart. Those tender sparks of love have kept my lungs expanding. I extend my trembling index finger and stroke her long black hair. Her skin, a sparkling diamond in the darkness. I remember the first time I laid eyes on my beautiful Reina. She sat beside me in English literature when I attended the University of Boston. I dropped my pencil, and she graciously dipped down to grab it for me. When our eyes met, I knew she was the one. The peace I felt told my soul there was no other woman for me. It was like coming home to a warm hearth. My universe exploded into a trillion shining stars, and the best part, she felt it too. Our wedding was filled with family, friends, and happiness. We said our personal vows and cried a river of tears. When it rained at the reception, we couldn't wait to dance in the deluge. As the cool droplets soaked our clothes and flowed down our bodies, we were reborn as one. Alas, the conflicts of a raging war in the Middle East pulled me away from Reina when I was drafted by the military. We had our hopes set on having a baby, but those plans had to be postponed. Of course, Reina supported me all the way, but I didn't want to leave her side. The training I had to endure was difficult, but I found solace in Reina's love letters. I would receive one every week, and I, in turn, would send my love through the wire. We longed for the chaos to be over, so we could resume our lives. It was midwinter when the letters stopped through no fault of our own. I was placed on a secret mission with a group of 12 soldiers to infiltrate the enemy stronghold to seize top-secret files on a nuclear weapon. Everything was going smoothly until Captain Ziggy tripped an alarm on our way out of the complex. And needless to say, we were captured. I can imagine the pain and worry my dearest Reyna had to deal with, because I felt it too. How many oceans has she cried? Sergeant Radagon tortured us for days and wanted to know why we were there and who we were working for. I wouldn't say a word, not even when they threatened to cut my tongue out. Thank goodness it didn't come to that, but I fear my time is running out. One by one, the cries of my fellow comrades grew silent until I was the last man standing. A second pair of elongated teeth biting my peripheral nerve remind me of the horrific reality I find myself in. I shuffle my feet and watch the mangy rodents scatter. I hear the weary sound of boots stomping toward me and take a deep, shuddering breath. A robust man with great authority steps into my view, holding a brown bowl and a lit torch. It's Sergeant Radagon. My dinner has arrived. Hungry Godwin, you'll need your strength to endure the pain to come, because I'm not finished with you yet. My questions will be answered. With that, the sweaty man tosses the bowl at me. The smell of molded oatmeal tickles my nostrils and makes my nose hairs retreat in defeat. My skin crawls like 1,000 insects searching for a new home. As Radagon leaves with a deep chuckle, I cup my hands and scoop what I can. The taste is horrible, but it will give me the energy to do what I must. I wait for darkness to come and know this from the stampede above my head. The guards are more active during the day. At night, they're all but absent. I glance at Reyna's picture and remember the first time we kissed. We were walking at the Pittsburgh Zoo when Reyna stumbled on a stray rock. I caught her before she hit the ground, and as our eyes met, we pressed our lips together. The planet's axis spun loose and found a new home in us. Those were happy times, and my soul aches for more precious memories. But there will be time for that later. Right now, I have work to do. I put her picture back into the rags they call my clothes, and wait. A sudden tickle disturbs my sleeping toes. The rats are back. I watch tiny red eyes and long whiskers flicker around my feet. When I feel teeth stab my skin, I lean forward and snatch the intruder with my bare hands. I hold the rat to the flickering light and wince at the terrified squeals. Well, my little friend, I'm sorry about this, but there is no other way. Crack! I snap the rat's neck and let the blood paint the shackles around my wrists. I've grown quite skinny, so all I needed was a little lubrication. After tossing the rodent to the side, I work my hands back and forth until I'm free from the bonds. I gently lay the lynx on the floor and stand. My joints pop like snapping twigs, but I ignore the pain. My muscles forgot what it was like to stand. The chains kept me anchored to the floor with little slack where I had to sleep in my own filth. The pain feels great. It reminds me I'm alive. In the corner of my eye, I see a rumbling mound growing in the dark corner. I reach to the wall and grab a torch. Casting a glow, I see 100 rats eating their fallen friend. They don't appreciate the light and hiss at me. "You nasty fiends!" I use the uneven bricks in the wall as a crutch until I reach a narrow corner. I realize now, more than ever, that this catacomb is a maze. The light reveals a horde of rats in every direction. How can there be so many? The smell of rotting flesh mixed with rancid sewage makes me vomit. I have my answer. The rodents are quick to clean up the mess, and I use the opportunity to move further into the abyss. About halfway down the corridor, the jugular veins in my neck throb in protest. The confined space spins to mock me, and my heart drops like a bowling ball. I close my eyes and reach for Raina's photo. Through the slits of my peripheral view, I see my angel. My mind ventures back to the first time we made love. We were nervous. The fact that we were saving ourselves for that moment still amazes me. I remember the warm blanket of peace and understanding that enveloped us. Our fears were eroded away, and even though we had no clue about what we were doing, our instincts and passions led the way. As we became one, that journey met a happy, climatic ending and marked the beginning of our sexual revolution. It was all about trust in ourselves and each other. I place Raina's picture back into my loincloth and smile. Through uncertain circumstances, we always find a way to keep going. We need to believe in ourselves. I must get back to her. With renewed motivation, I place one foot in front of the other and wobble through the wavy light. The rodents hound my every step. As long as the flame burns bright, the little monsters keep their distance. I weave through the dark labyrinth only to find more rats chewing on the carcasses of people who would never be identified. I wonder if any of them were my fellow soldiers. Rounding another bin, I hear a clanking sound and quickly discover a bald man anchored to the wall with boils all over his skin. Please, help me. I narrow my eyes and ask, "What's wrong with you? Are you diseased?" "No. I need the light to shine upon my skin once more, and all my ailments will be cured." I wave my torch up and down his flabby skin and see a spider burrow into one of the pustules. I take a few steps back and grab my heart. Good heavens, what madness is this? In my hasty retreat, I rush by another torch and inadvertently erase the flame. It was the only light shining on the plagued man. With the fire gone, I hear his screams first. No! Get them off me! Help! The sound of 100 scampering paws makes me cringe. As the rats eat the man's tarnished flesh, I turn away and take no pleasure in this madness. My journey must continue. I whisk around another corner and see a dangling man with a hollow chest. I extend the torch and gasp. It's Captain Ziggy. He looks like he was left to starve to death. I poke his arm, and an army of hungry rats storm out from the hole in his sternum. I withdraw quickly and fumble for Raina's picture. I need her inspiration now more than ever. The memory of buying our house washes over my trembling mind. That small 2-story shack needed a lot of work, and I didn't want to bother with it. Raina told me the foundations were strong, and that's all that mattered. We worked hard to rebuild everything and made that place a home. It was a castle fitting for a king and queen. Faith, love, determination, hard work, and willpower were all we needed. I replace the keepsake with renewed vigor, bite my lower lip, and trudge on. After what seems like an endless journey, I stop when I see a staircase down a long, curvy hallway, bathed in light. It's the exit. A dozen skeleton bodies line the walls like Halloween decorations, and I wonder what wicked fate they must have encountered to deserve deaths like that. I take out Raina's picture once more and kiss it. My sweet angel, if I can reach the light, if I can escape this hellish prison, I will be in your arms again. Please, give me the strength. A distant memory slaps my face. Raina and I went rock climbing in the Appalachian Mountains, and I remember coming to a gap I couldn't cross. Raina, being the fearless warrior, tossed her rope across the chasm and swung across. She urged me to do the same, which I did, but it took a lot of coaxing. You can do it, my love. I harnessed her encouragement and made it in the end. Nothing is impossible as long as you have love and courage. As I step forward, I see thousands of rats in the darkness. A sea of hungry ruby eyes yearning for me to make a wrong move. I glance at my torch and see the cherry embers growing dull. I don't think the flames will carry me through this nightmare. If only Raina was here to toss me a rope. You can do it, my love. Raina's words ignite a new fire in my gut. The time for thinking is over. If I toss the torch and run for the bright staircase, I might make it out of here. Here goes nothing. I will get back to you, my sweet Raina. I throw the torch to the middle of the hallway and watch the rats scatter like flies. My legs scream in holy agony as I run for the staircase. I don't look at the menacing creatures, but my ears can't deny their screeching protests. My eyes stay locked on the prize ahead. And as I reach the top of the staircase, the light stabs my eyes like a million suns. The toxic fumes of nicotine smoke pierce my lungs like a sharp spear. Well, where do you think you're going? Have you come to give me some answers? I know the voice well. It belongs to the man who killed my fellow soldiers, Sergeant Radagon. I keep my mouth shut, and while I can't see much, I can tell his face is flushed like a red tomato. Wait, it's not a tomato. It's a cigarette. Ah, now I will burn out your eyes for trying to escape. I shuffle my feet to the side as the hot cherry comes closer to my pupils and hear a raging ruckus as Radagon trips on my blistered feet and crashes down the stairs. He lands in the middle of the hallway where my dying torch screams its last breath. The red eyes are ever watchful, and the next thing I hear is a blood-curdling shriek of horror as the rats eat him alive. I pull out Reyna's picture and smile, because I know my beloved wife is waiting for me with open arms. As the sound of 1,000 chomping mouths echo in the abyss, I stumble out from the catacombs and into the light. Gorephans, Mummy and Daddy left me. They went away and left me on my own in this scary place with sharp and spiky stones that stab my feet. I don't want to cry on this beach, if it is a beach, because the only sound is that of pebbles crunching beneath my toes, and my voice sounds weird, like an echo. There's nothing to see except the wispy gray fog that folds around me. It feels like I'm by the sea because of the stones and that disgusting, salty smell. But I can't hear any waves or people splashing. If it is the seaside, a boring seaside with a stony beach, I don't know how I got here. I remember being with Mummy and Daddy. We went for a picnic and stopped at the toy store. Daddy bought me a brand new cat plush, Miss Mittens. At least she's here to keep me company. If I didn't have her, I think I would really cry, not because of the stones, or the fog, or the smell, but because Mummy and Daddy left me. Why would they bring me here? Why would they go home without me? When are they coming back? I don't understand. The next day, Mummy and Daddy left me, and I don't know where they are. I'm crying now, because I've been lost on this beach for so long. And when I see the woman float out of the fog with a smile and a big fluffy blanket, I know she'll help. I know, Tilly. I'm sorry I'm late. It took me some time to locate you. How do you know my name? I ask the woman as she bundles me in her blanket. I've been in my nightdress on this seaside with no sea, and the fog has been getting frosty. so it's nice to be wrapped in something warm. Did Mummy and Daddy send you? Not exactly, Tilly. Mummy and Daddy are sorry they couldn't get to you themselves, but I'm here now, and I'll take care of you. Come along. Let's get you someplace safe. Home? My home, Tilly. For a while. Don't worry. There are other girls like you there. I'm sure you'll make friends. And you can rest while we figure this out. The woman in the old-fashioned dress that has lacy trim around the collar puts her arm around me, and we start to walk back the way she came, stones crunching and crumbling beneath her fancy boots and my frozen toes. I have lots of questions, but I don't know which to ask first, so I say nothing and think about what she said. New home? Other girls? Figure this out? My face feels funny, I say, and my eyelids grow heavy. Your face is beautiful, the woman answers, but I don't reply. Another day, Mummy and Daddy left me, and the house went on fire. That's what Mabel Montgomery is trying to say, in a roundabout way, like I'm a baby. But I know she's wrong. There's no way Mummy and Daddy would leave me alone. And there's no way our house would go on fire because it's a new house with fire alarms and everything. And there's no way I died because I'm sitting in an armchair in an office wearing a stiff blue dress that was laid out for me when I woke up, in a bed with tall posts and a lace canopy. I don't know why she's doing this. I thought she was nice when she brought me here, to this mansion with dozens of rooms and maids and girls. But now I think she might be trying to kidnap me. Maybe she did that to the others. I haven't had a chance to talk to anyone yet, because I just got up today after sleeping for a really long time. But sleeping for a long time is not the same as dying. I know it's hard, the woman with the silver hair says. You need time, but I'm here for you. We will work together to get you through this. And then, when you're ready, we'll find someone nice to take care of you. She places a hand on my shoulder and smiles, but I don't trust her. Not anymore, because it's a lie. This manor, the beach, the fog, a lie, or a dream, or a nightmare. What else can explain the face staring back at me from the mirror as Mabel leads me from her office? The horrible, burnt face of a monster that couldn't be me, because I didn't die in a fire. Yet another day. You're Tilly, right? I'm Jessica. I hope you're doing okay. I know it's a lot to take in, finding yourself here. I know it hurts. A lot. But you'll survive. It's easy for her to say. The teenager in the dress that's the same style as mine, except green. Her face isn't scarred and disgusting. Her hands aren't marbled and shiny. She has long blonde hair like I did. She's pretty. I heard what happened. It must have been so scary. I know how scared I was when I was drowning, but I can't imagine what it must have been like, too. She tries to be brave and look at my face while she talks, But the look of pity in her eyes is worse than the look of disgust I see in others. And I hate it. I don't remember, all right? Can you go away? I want to be on my own. Sure. I just thought you might want to talk. I know it isn't easy coming to terms with things. We've all been through it. You'll see a lot of girls like you, keeping to themselves. You'll see girls with injuries and wounds they're not ready to let go of. You'll see others like me. But none of us had it easy. So take your time. It will get better, I promise. I said, leave me alone. I surprise myself by shouting. I hop up from the window seat, abandoning my view of the fog, and push the girl away before storming across the polished wooden floorboards and racing up the staircase to the bedrooms. Bedrooms occupied by girls aged 6 to 18. Girls I don't want to talk to. Girls I can't even look at. Some of them have missing limbs. Some of them have cuts and horrible wounds. Some of them have holes. But the hardest ones to look at are the ones like Jessica, who look complete, like nothing happened, because my body is burnt and alive from a fire, and it's not fair. The 5th day, or more. Hey, I'm Carly. Seen you around, but figured you wouldn't want to talk yet. Enjoying Miss Mabel Montgomery's orphanage for late lamented lassies, or, as I call it, the Gorephanage. If you're lonely, you can move in with me. I won't bug you about adapting, and I don't want to know your tragic past. I have a spare bunk since my friend Delilah sold out and got adopted. The traitor. I've seen this girl around too, sulking and being mean to the maids. She's another damaged girl, like me. She has a gash on her neck, one that seems to laugh as she speaks, and purple bruises on her legs and arms, which are visible because she isn't wearing a dress. She's got jeans shorts on and a t-shirt with a picture of Taylor Swift, both of them covered in reddish-brown stains. I guess that's what she was wearing when she got here. I wish I'd kept my night dress and hadn't sold out. Maybe, I reply, which is a surprise. I haven't spoken to anyone in days, though plenty have tried to talk to me. Mabel, the maids, various girls, mostly the complete ones, though some of the gruesome ones too. I wasn't in the mood. But there's something about this freckle-faced girl with the ponytail and chipped front tooth that makes me feel comfortable. Have you been here long? Long enough to know how to get on Miss Mabel's tits and how to scare the shit out of the ghost mothers. Want to come to my room? We can hatch some devious plans. Carly is about my age, but she uses lots of grown-up words, and it makes me nervous, but also excited. I never had a friend like her, and she isn't looking at me funny like the others, even the ones with missing limbs. So I nod and smile for the first time in ages. Leaving my room, I look over the banister down into the foyer of the mansion. Miss Montgomery is there, with Jessica, who hasn't spoken to me since I told her to go away. She's holding the hand of a person I haven't seen before, a tall, pale stick of a woman in a tweed outfit. Miss Montgomery opens the door, and wisps of fog sneak in as Jessica looks up and waves. I don't wave back. I see the skinny woman follow Jessica's gaze and gasp as her eyes fall on me. Shocked by my appearance, I stick my tongue out and waggle my hands alongside my crusty face, then hurry after Carly, avoiding Mabel's disappointed look. A later day, Mabel tells me Carly is a rebellious girl who's struggling to accept her own passing, so it would be better if I talked to someone else, so I can process and come to terms. Well, what if I don't want to process how my parents left me to die? What if I don't want to come to terms with being burnt alive and looking like a monster? Carly says, I don't have to. Carly says, I can wear my scars like a badge of honor. And if Mabel and her maids and the ghost mothers who come to replace the kids they left behind in the real world don't like it, then tough. Mothers who leave their children are the worst, even if they do it by dying. Why would I want a new mother anyway? A dead one? They don't care about me. They can't even look at me. Every time one visits, I see how they turn away from me and Carly, and Lucinda, and Selena, and Flair. Because we're ugly, burnt or cut, or missing important pieces. We're Gorephans, and nobody wants a Gorephan, even if they might say they do. Fake smiles, telling me I'm beautiful, telling me my soul is beautiful. I don't give a shit about my soul. I want my face. That's why it's fun when Carly tricks them, waits till they get close, then spurts a fountain of blood from the gash on her neck. So funny seeing them jump. That's why I let her teach me how to summon my own death echo, so I can scare the shit out of ghost mothers by bursting into flames. It gets rid of them pretty fast, and it gets on Miss Montgomery's tits, and I get to spend more time with the Gorephans, the ones that didn't sell out, like Bambi, who took the rope marks off her neck the other day and went away. A traitor, but she'll see. When she gets abandoned again, she'll see it's a waste of time trusting a mother. A bad day. Carly isn't talking. I think she's depressed. Mabel brought a bunch of ghost mothers to the Gorephanage the other day and assembled us girls to be inspected. Not that she used that word. She said there had been an influx of parents to the beach due to a global pandemic, and it was an opportunity to place a few girls. But Carly said we were just being inspected, and of course, it was only girls with no obvious injuries who got adopted. Sure, a few mothers tried to talk to me and pretended they didn't notice my scars, but I knew they were just trying to make me feel better. Why would they pick me when they could have a complete? Why would they want a girl with a face like burnt toast? Carly lost it. After the 4th or 5th, Mother tried to hug her. She threw her head back and sprayed the biggest fountain of blood I've ever seen. It went everywhere, all over the mothers and the girls and Mabel and the maids and the floor. I didn't think it was ever going to stop. I couldn't stop laughing. Mabel had to send the mothers away, and that's when stupid Lila pushed Carly, telling her she was a selfish a-hole for ruining things for everyone else. How dare she? Why is it okay for completes to get adopted, but not Gorephans? That's not fair. I told Carly that, but she was upset and didn't want to talk. She went to the window seat to stare into the fog. She's been there for days, and I miss her. I'm lonely again. I hate it. I want to go home. The worst day. Carly's missing. Have you seen her? Carly is gone from the window seat. I checked everywhere. The kitchen, the pantry, Lucinda and Flair's rooms, the lounge. But I can't find her, and nobody knows where she is. So I burst into Mabel's office, even though I'm not supposed to when the door's shut. Mabel is behind her desk, talking to a woman and girl who have their backs to me. A woman in jeans and a jumper, and a girl with long brown hair in an ivory dress with lace trim. One of Mabel's dresses, though I haven't seen it before. Tilly, I'm busy. Can you go to your room and wait? I'll talk to you when I finish here. The way she says it makes me think she knows something. I hesitate because I want to know what it is now. But the mother starts to turn, and I don't want to be looked at with disgust, so I back out of the room. Until the girl in the ivory dress turns, and I recognize her freckles and chipped tooth. With her hair down, and without her wound, Carly looks like a different person. A nice girl. A pretty girl. Complete. Tilly, she says, slumping her shoulders. I'm sorry. I don't know what happened. I don't want to hear it. She's a sellout. A traitor. Like Delilah and Bambi and Selena. Another one who's going to leave me. And this time, I can't stop my tears. It was my time, and I slam the office door shut and run upstairs. Day, whatever. Mabel talks and talks, but I don't hear. Ghost mothers visit, but I stay in bed. Flair and Lucinda try to cheer me up with their death echoes. Flair pops off her head and juggles with it, while Lucinda pulls out her guts and ties them in the shape of a dog. I don't care. Mummy and Daddy left me. Carly left me. Even Miss Mittens disappeared. Why does nobody want me? Why do I exist? I want to die, but I'm already dead. I'm dead. I am dead. A much later day. No, I don't want to stay here. I want to go home. Miss Montgomery's door slams back against the wall. startling me from my fog watching and bringing my eyes to the 6 or 7-year-old girl who runs from the office to the large double doors of the manor. "I want my mom! Let me out!" 2 maids intercept the girl, whose long blonde hair is bloody and matted around a hole in her head that shows her brain, whose dungarees and shirt are torn and stained. "Go away! Don't touch me!" Mabel is in her doorway, arms crossed, watching. Just another day at the office. "Where's my mom? What did you do to her?" The girl lashes out and knocks a vase off a tall wooden table. "Leave me alone." The girl pushes a maid away roughly. "Where's my mom? I want her." The girl escapes the second maid, not looking where she's going, runs into me before I can step aside. She looks up, angry, spittle flying from her lips. When she sees I'm just a girl, her expression changes. "Have you seen my mom? Do you live here?" Fear on her face now, terror in her eyes. "Temporarily," I reply, and drop down on one knee. "It's a place to be, while we wait." "For what? To go home?" "Sort of." "What's your name?" "Alice." "Okay, Alice. I know you're confused, and it will be hard for you to understand why you're here, but it's a safe place. It's okay to be angry, but you can make friends, and those friends will help you come to terms with shut up, the fear gone, the anger back. She thinks I'm another of them because I sound like Mabel. "Mom, where are you?" She breaks away from me, runs to the staircase and up. The other girls standing at the top, drawn by the commotion. She sees Lucinda and Rebecca with her face of glass shards and screams, drops to the floor, covers her head. A maid secures her, bundles her up, and carries her crying the rest of the way to a room. A bed, a dress. I realize Alice looked me in the eye when I was talking. She didn't flinch or try to get away. I stand and take a step to a wall-mounted mirror. There, staring back at me, is Tilly. Scars remain, but not as monstrous as before. My arms and hands remain pink and shiny, but I recognize myself. In the reflection, Mabel smiles as she closes her door. I still have a long way to go, but maybe, like Jessica said, I will survive, and so will Alice. Unrefined Thirst. "Fresh squeezed today," the bartender said, slapping the husky steel barrel behind him. He smiled, his hollow features shadowed by the dim pendant lights over the bar. From his stool, Victor looked down the bar counter. He saw the males with their stark white shirts and freshly pressed slacks, shiny hair slicked neatly behind their ears. They mingled with flirtatious females, elegant dresses in midnight blues and wine-colored reds. The guests drank from cups. The liquid's rousing scent permeated the tavern. Victor's hands quivered as he watched them drink. Was it 3 days since he'd last had a sip? 4? The thirst boiled inside him, but discipline was paramount. He shook his head at the bartender. Cup of bubble water, raising an eyebrow. The bartender leaned in to meet Victor's gaze. "By the looks of you, you need a drink, lad. You're paler than the moon." Victor wasn't sure why he chose to make his abstinence difficult. When curing an addict, they say to make it easy, remove all temptations. To enter the belly of the beast was self-restraint suicide. Perhaps it was to prove a point. If he could do it here, he could it anywhere. Maybe it was still too early in his sobriety, but he knew the cause was worth it. He had to do this. He had to know it could work. He shook his head again, tapped his fingers on the bar. "Please, just bubble water." The bartender's sunken eyes lingered. "You ain't one of those puritanicals, are you? Think you're all high and mighty by taking the pledge?" Victor tightened his jaw, opened his mouth to comment. But before the words left his lips, he caught himself. Breathe in, breathe out. That's the first lesson when dealing with temptation. Control your breath. He closed his eyes, breathed the metallic scent of the bar, the soft notes of a piano mixed with the steady chatter of the guests. A voice inside screamed for a drink, but he would choose not to listen. He was better than the carnal needs of his biology. He opened his eyes. "I'm no puritanical, just someone requesting bubble water. Is that too much to ask?" The bartender eyed him suspiciously. He poured a cup of bubble water, placed it in front of Victor. "You know they ain't right, those puritanicals. We've been drinking it since the beginning of time. You think by abstaining, you're a better person. Like you're saving lives or something." "I told you," Victor said, sipping his bubble water. "I'm no puritanical, and that one there ain't a blend salesman." The bartender thumb gestured to a male at the end of the bar, chatting cocksure between two females. He wore the usual salesman attire, black suit and tie. Oxfords shined to a sheen. Behind sharp cheeks, he grinned, his milky teeth visible even in the muted light. The females grasped his arms on either side, giggled at his jokes with contrite. The scum of the earth, Victor thought. Big earners with mammoth egos. The blend salesmen were the antithesis of everything Victor stood for. All the work he had done to balance the scales, to build justice in the world. And all they cared about was the paycheck, the females, and satisfying their thirst. Them puritanicals ain't big fans of them blend salesmen, the bartender said. "You don't look impressed with that one." Victor grimaced. He couldn't reveal his allegiance here. Who knew who could be listening? But in a moment of irritation, perhaps the abstinence was clouding his judgment. Perhaps he was exhausted from years of bickering with heartless morons. He lashed out. And what if I was one? What if I did take the pledge? The moment the words left his lips, he regretted it. A few bar patrons looked over. The bartender stepped back. As he rag-dried the hollow of a cup, He dissected Victor with his eyes. "You would have to leave." "Yes, sir. Ain't having none of your kind in here. You come to my bar, you drink the fresh squeeze." Victor looked at the stout steel drum, erected like a monument behind the bar. The keg tap was polished to a sparkle. He felt his innards squirm in discomfort. As loathsome as the contents were, the thirst intensified inside him. He pulled his eyes away. "Tell you what," said the bartender. He lifted a cup, opened the keg tap, filled the cup to the brim with liquid. "You have a sip of this, and you can stay. I know you ain't really one of them puritanicals." He placed the cup beside Victor's bubble water. Victor looked into the cup. The liquid sat in a delicious, dark pool. "Willpower," he thought. "You can do this." But the metallic scent flooding his nostrils was overbearing. A deep, primal lust took hold, and the thirst spoke within. "Just a sip. All the good you've done, you deserve one sip." Beads of sweat formed on his brow. The bar grew hot and stifling. He peeled his collared shirt from his skin. "I won't drink that," he whispered under his breath. The bartender leaned forward, placed both forearms on the bar. "You're sweating, lad. It's just a sip. It's in our genes, you know. We can't live without it." He nudged the cup forward so that it was under Victor's nose. The smell overpowered him, entranced him in a mesmerizing grip. The bar chatter dampened to a muffle. The piano's notes hollowed as if underwater. A haze blurred the periphery of his vision. It was just him and the cup, the dark liquid reaching with tempestuous hands. The thirst was shrieking, "Drink, drink, drink." Victor's hands shook uncontrollably. Discipline, he thought, his logical mind trying to override his thirst. You cannot control your environment, but you can control your choices. His hands were drawn forward like a stringed puppet. Inches from the cup, they shook harder, rattling like jackhammers. The thirst howled maddeningly. The compulsion was too great, the thirst too loud. His hands closed around the cup. Lifting it, he brought the screaming contents toward his lips, and then the bar door slammed open. A loud thud shook the room, and the cold night wind poured in. "Found one on the outskirts," a gruff voice said. Victor, along with the rest of the bar's guests, rotated on their stools to the open door. Two figures entered. The first was a husky male, decorated head to toe in furs. Between two beady eyes, his nose protruded from his face like a crow's beak. The second was a human, dark hair matted over her face. Her hands were bound in front of her. She was naked, her body mud-caked. Through the thick grime that covered her face, Skittish eyes flitted across the room. Crow-Nose gripped her by the hair, dragged her roughly into the dim bar light. He kicked the back of her leg with a boot, and she fell to her knees. "Still room in the keg, Lonnie?" Crow-Nose said, tugging at the woman's hair. Lonnie, the bartender, spread his arms wide. "Typhus, I see the night's hunt was successful. With guests are thirsty as ours, we will make room. Found her on the outskirts, you said?" "Aye, fiddling with our sunshades. Escaped from the juicing farm, this one. Sure smells like it. Is she marked?" "Left wrist." Traced her to old Galaban's farm. Lonnie laughed. "That old sack can't keep them in. I'm surprised the Regency hasn't shut him down." Typhus furrowed his brow. "Unfortunately so. Will be harder to find strays for the fresh squeeze." His eyes met the great steel barrel behind the bar. "Hard work for Typhus? Come now, have a drink, lad. You're in good company. And you've brought entertainment for the night." Bartender Lonnie gestured to the well-dressed patrons lining the bar counter. "Guests, see what our trapper Typhus has brought us. Lonnie's Tavern hires the best. Drinks and a show tonight." The guests at the bar muttered in agreement. Lonnie handed out fresh drinks from the keg. The pianist increased the tempo of their melody. The chatter in the bar amplified, buzzing voices mingling with clinking cups. Victor watched the salesman at the end of the bar drape his arms around the two females. As he whispered in their ears, they chortled with delight. Typhus dragged the dirt-caked human to a pole in the middle of the tavern. He chained her bound hands to the pole. Victor watched her fearful eyes scan the room. The bloodwood ceiling, the pendant lights, the silver-haired pianist in the corner, the great steel keg shimmering like a shrine. Her eyes flitted from guest to guest, the males in their white button-ups, the females in their ornate dresses. As her eyes met Victor's, he had to look away. Her gaze was horrific. It had a haunted quality, like a creature that had suffered untold misery. To look her in the eye was to give this whole charade permission. Victor noticed he was still clutching the cup of keg liquid between his palms. Looking down into the cup, he met his reflection in the dark pool of liquid. His gut roiled with revulsion. Turning away, he put the cup onto the bar. "It begins," Typhus shouted, sipping a cup, strutting across the bar in his furs. "A live juicing. Here, in none other than Lonnie's Tavern." The guests were all standing now, facing the center of the room, drinking from their cups. The tavern grew quiet. The voices drowned. The pianist stopped playing. "Bring me the fangs," Typhus roared. From behind the bar, Lonnie hefted a large black case and plopped it onto the counter. He snapped the latches open and lifted the fangs from their case. The metal glimmered under the pendant lights. It was a set of steel jaws, edges serrated. with two knife-like incisors projecting from each jaw. Clear tubes led from the jaws to a thigh-sized collection tank. Typhus took the fangs from Lonnie and moved toward the woman. She shifted on the Blackwood floor, tried to stand, but the grime clutching her body caused her to slide onto her backside. She let out an animalistic yelp. As Typhus approached, she moved behind the pole, attempting to hide from the fangs. The spectators laughed. They clinked their cups and drank. Anticipation etched on their faces. Typhus opened the fangs, the incisors sparkling. As he brought them forward, Lonnie cut in. "Hold on, Typhus." Typhus stopped mid-stride. "We've got one of them puritanicals in our midst," Lonnie said. Typhus, along with the rest of the guests, turned to Lonnie. The room was silent. Lonnie pointed a thick finger at Victor. "Right here, this one, drinking the bubble water." All eyes were on Victor, loathing carved into their faces. Typhus spat on the floor. "A puritanical here?" Victor's pulse began to hammer. Typhus grinned maliciously, lips curling around the end of his crow's beak. "It's a pity, those who choose to abstain. It's a flawed ideology. We were built for blood. It's in our DNA." Victor wanted to say something, wanted to defend himself, defend his cause, but he couldn't find the words. His lips were too dry, his throat too tight. He opened his mouth to speak, but no words came. He closed his mouth. Typhus smiled. "Looks like abstinence has silenced our high and mighty." The room laughed. Victor felt beads of sweat roll down his forehead. They would kill him if they knew the truth, especially in the presence of a trapper. Others could sometimes be reasoned with. They could see the harm they were causing the humans. They would disagree, of course, and would still choose to satisfy their thirst. But they would leave you to your own. You have your point of view. I have mine, they would say. Trappers were not like that at all. Puritanicals must be eliminated at all costs. That was the trapper philosophy. "I'm not a puritanical," Victor lied. "They are a disgrace to our kind." It made him sick saying it, but he knew it needed to be said. A murmur stirred amongst the bar patrons. "Then why haven't you taken a sip of my fresh squeeze?" Lonnie said. His sunken eyes were dark, hollow pits. "Prove it to us." He pushed the keg cup toward Victor. "I have a better idea." It was the salesman's voice this time, smooth and mocking. The two snickering females were still ensnared beneath his languorous arms. He should juice her, make him do it. Victor's stomach dropped. He wanted to vomit, to hurl his insides onto the Blackwood floor. Didn't they understand? It didn't have to be like this. There were other methods, ethical methods. There was the stem cell research the Puritanical Foundation had invested in. It was no longer in its infancy. Soon, human blood could be cultivated in a lab, so juice farms wouldn't need to exist. And there was the alternative blood. Beyond blood. Sure, it didn't taste quite the same, but they were improving the formula every month. He knew the technology would take time, but even if juicing was necessary in the meantime, why did it have to be done this way? Why were there some who would put slaughter on display as a testament to our kind? Why was the world so raw and ruthless? Couldn't we see that humans suffered just as we did? Typhus held out the fangs, fur boots clopping toward Victor. You heard the lad? Victor hesitated, felt a fist squeezing at his insides. Typhus was now beside him, placing the fangs in his limp hands. You're as pale as milk, Typhus whispered in his ear. I know that thirst within. They were all looking at him. Typhus, Lonnie, the patrons, the human. It was as if he were in a prison. Garlic and silver and sunlight closing in from all sides. He knew if he did not perform the act, if he did not return to his violent roots, what he was made to be, the room would destroy him. They would tear into him with their hungry fangs, ripping flesh from bone like a pack of lions. And they would juice the human anyway. They would take her life just as fast as they took his. Is refusal worth it? How many human lives could he save in the future if he walked out of here alive? How much good could he do if he could continue the puritanical cause? Victor stepped forward. He carried the jaws in one hand, held the collection tank in the other. The human squirmed on the ground, slipping along the floor with her muddy body. Her wide eyes were filled with fear. She tried to pull away, but the chain held her to the pole. Typhus made the job easier. He sliced the woman's thigh with a knife. She screamed, rivulets of blood flowing from the wound. Blood. Fresh cut, human blood. Victor's nostrils flared, and the heavy metallic scent flooded in. It was intoxicating. I'm made for this, he thought. This is how we were built. Blood was his life force, and a vampire needed its feed. He was inches from her now. He placed the collection tank on the floor, and with both hands, opened the fangs. He positioned them over her gashed thigh, prepared to crush down, to bite the metal viciously into her flesh. Victor smiled at her, bared his teeth, fangs glinting in the dim light. His hands were steady, more steady than they've ever been. And then he looked into her eyes, those haunted eyes, those tortured eyes. They screamed at him, shrieked, cursed, howled as loud as eyes could howl, and he felt everything. It's strange, Victor thought, as he crushed the fangs closed, how some do what's right, even when it's the worst possible decision. The chain snapped in two. The vampires came at him. Blackwood's ewe farm. Jenna wiped sweat from her forehead and surveyed the cluttered living room. Boxes labeled kitchen, bedroom, studio equipment were scattered around. The high ceilings and dusty crown molding had a haunting charm, perfect for her next YouTube series. "All right, guys," Jenna said, adjusting her camera. "Welcome to Blackwood's U-Farm, a place so haunted it's been empty for years. But you know me, here to bust some myths and find the truth." Jenna panned the camera around, capturing B-roll footage. "The plan is to document everything," she said, moving through the hallway. "We'll explore every nook and cranny. And if the ghosts won't come, we'll have to encourage them." Her viewers loved a good scare, even if it meant a bit of staging. Jenna was used to setting up convincing shots to keep her audience on edge. "This place is beautiful," Jenna said. "It's hard to believe nobody's lived here for years." She paused, her look a mix of curiosity and skepticism. Jenna set her camera on the porch handrail. The evening light cast shadows across the wood as she zoomed in on the plaque reading Blackwood's U-Farm. "Look at this," she said. "What's up with the weird capital letters?" She stepped back, ensuring the whole plaque was in the frame. "It's not just fancy font." She paused, letting the camera linger on the name. Jenna glanced around, noting the rocking chair and ivy framing the windows. A creak from behind made her jump. Spinning around, she saw nothing. Nervously, she turned back to the camera. "Well, that's creepy," she said. "This place certainly has atmosphere." She turned off the camera and walked into the house, footsteps echoing on the hardwood floors. She set the camera on a tripod, framing the grand foyer behind her, and turned it back on. "All right, everyone," Jenna says, "let's take a deeper look into Blackwood's U-Farm." She panned the camera across the entryway, showing the chandelier, dusty portraits, and wide staircase. "Check out this staircase," she says, brushing the polished wood. Straight out of a Gothic novel. Jenna moved into the living room, aiming the camera at the fireplace. This fireplace must have seen countless winter nights. She walked in front of the camera and looked directly into it. Turns out, Blackwood's U-Farm has a history. People say it's haunted, but you know me, I'm here to bust those myths. A soft creak echoed through the house, making Jenna's heart skip a beat. Perfect setting for our adventure, right? Jenna reached for her notebook. Built in early 1929 by John Blackwood. After the Blackwood family's mysterious disappearance, the house changed hands a few times, each owner left under strange circumstances. It's been empty for 20 years. Closing the book, she whispered, "Bad luck? Or something sinister?" She moved the tripod to the hallway in front of the basement door. She opened the door to the basement and pretended to peer down. "I'll save the basement for another day," Jenna says with a nervous laugh. Heading upstairs, Jenna showed the master bedroom with its large 4-poster bed and faded wallpaper. "This must have been beautiful in its day," she says. I can't wait to fix it up. And the first thing to go is that ugly wallpaper. Finally, she climbed the narrow staircase to the attic. She pushed open the creaky door and stepped inside, her flashlight revealing stacks of old boxes and furniture. She panned the camera over the piles of furniture and forgotten relics covered in dust. Looks like I've got my work cut out for me, she says, stepping carefully around the clutter. But who knows? Maybe we'll find something interesting. Jenna approached a large wooden trunk in the corner, its surface scratched and worn. She knelt and slowly lifted the lid. Inside were old clothes, yellowed letters, and a leather-bound diary. She picked up the diary to show the camera. "Jackpot," Jenna said, eyes wide with excitement. She opened the diary, flipping through the brittle pages. "Margaret Blackwood, 1929, Jenna read aloud. This could give us some insight into the history of the farm. She glanced at the camera. "I promise I'll read some of this later for you guys." She tucked the diary under her arm and continued exploring the attic, her camera capturing every dusty corner. "This place is like a time capsule," Jenna said. "All right, I think that's enough for today." She turned the camera back on herself. "I've got a lot of work to do up here. Stay tuned for more updates from Blackwood's U Farm." Jenna sat on her bed, the diary in her lap. She opened it, finding mundane entries about the house's construction and moving in. But as she read on, the tone shifted. "November 15th, 1929, Jenna read. "Strange noises last night. Sounded like whispers. Couldn't sleep. December 2nd, 1929, Jenna read. "The whispers are getting louder. John thinks I'm imagining things." The next entry caught her eye, the handwriting shakier. "December 14th, 1929, she whispered. "Woke up to find all the doors open. John is missing. We're not alone. The children are terrified." Jenna's hands trembled as she turned the page. The final entry was short. The ink smudged. "December 15th, 1929, Jenna read. "Last night was the worst yet. Shadows in the darkness, cold hands on my skin. We must leave. If I could undo the wish that I made to get John to build it." The diary ended abruptly. Jenna closed the book, her mind racing. She had come to debunk myths, but now she wondered if she had taken on too much. She turned off the lamp and lay back on the bed. The house's creaks and moans amplified in the silence. Jenna pulled the covers up to her chin, her eyes wide as she stared into the darkness, unable to shake the feeling that she wasn't alone. Jenna stirred in her sleep as faint, eerie sounds creeping into her dreams. A low, rhythmic tapping echoed through the house. She woke with a start, heart pounding, sweat dripping from her forehead. Jenna reached for her camera and flashlight instinctively, her pulse racing. "What the she whispered to herself, trying to shake off the remnants of sleep. The tapping continued, louder and more insistent. "Okay, guys," Jenna said. Her voice trembled slightly, but she forced herself to sound composed. 3 o'clock. Some noises woke me out of bed. The floorboards creaked beneath her weight. The tapping echoed through the halls, setting her nerves on edge. "I'm going to check it out," Jenna said. "Wish me luck." She crept down the hallway, her flashlight illuminating the dust, motes floating in the air. The sound came from the attic. "Here goes nothing," Jenna muttered, placing a hand on the railing. Each step groaned under her weight. The attic door loomed before her, pushing it slowly, the hinges squealing in protest. The noise came from the far corner, behind a pile of debris. Jenna navigated the clutter, her camera held high. "This is creepy." As Jenna approached, the noise suddenly stopped. Scanning the area with her flashlight revealed nothing but cobwebs. "Nothing here," Jenna said, trembling. She lowered the camera, her breath coming in short gasps. The tapping didn't resume, the silence more unsettling than the noise. "Maybe it's just the house settling," Jenna said, more to herself. A cold breeze brushed past her, ruffling her hair and sending a shiver through her body. "Okay, that's enough for tonight," Jenna said shakily. Back to bed. At the bottom of the stairs, she glanced back up, half expecting to see someone staring at her. But there was nothing. Jenna set the camera down on her nightstand. She climbed back into bed, her mind racing. The house was old, full of noises, but this felt different. She tried to reassure herself, but the unease lingered. Jenna, eyes heavy with sleep, heard it again. Closer this time, different. A soft, dragging noise, like something being pulled across the floor. She sat up quickly, heart pounding, reaching for her camera. "Guys, it's happening again," Jenna said, pressing the record button. "It's around 4 o'clock in the morning." She swung the flashlight around, sweeping it across the room. She gasped as she noticed the old rocking chair in the corner, gently moving back and forth. She swallowed hard, the thrill of capturing something tangible. She quickly looked under the bed. "Nothing here," she said. But that chair moving, that was real. The noise returned from the hallway. She tiptoed to the door, every muscle tense as she turned the knob. The door swung open with a creak, revealing the dark corridor beyond. She aimed the flashlight down the corridor, the light struggling against the darkness. She crept to the staircase, her mind racing with explanations, each more unsettling than the last. As she reached the stairs, she paused, the sound now coming from below. "Here we go," she whispered, starting down the stairs. The main floor was cloaked in moving shadows as the flashlight washed over the furniture. "This is where it gets good," Jenna thought, her fear surely coming across as genuine to her viewers. This is exactly what they want. to see. She followed the noise to the kitchen, where the old cast-iron stove stood against the far wall. Jenna hesitated, her hand hovering over the stove's door handle. Jenna flung the door of the stove open. Inside, she found nothing but old ashes and cobwebs. The noise stopped abruptly. She turned the camera back on herself, trying to mask her relief with disappointment. "Well, that was anticlimactic," Jenna said. Jenna's mind churned. She couldn't debunk these sounds, and that worried her. There was no logical explanation, no draft or loose floorboard to blame. She headed back upstairs, but couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. She'd pretended to have this experience so many times before on camera, and now was sickened by the fear. The next day, she decided to explore the basement, the part of the house she hadn't investigated. Clutching her camera, she silently slipped down the stairs. "All right, guys, heading to the basement," Jenna said. "Let's see if we can find these noises." Jenna jiggled the handrail along the steps. It wobbled slightly, but no noise came. The basement was a large, shadow-filled space, cluttered with old furniture and dust-caked boxes. The air was musty, carrying the scent of mildew. "This looks promising," Jenna said, aiming the camera at an old wooden door, its paint peeling. Pushing it open revealed a small room filled with old boxes and more debris. Stepping inside, her flashlight barely cut the darkness. The room, cold and stagnant, was disappointingly mostly empty. "Well," Jenna said, shakier than she intended as she panned the camera to the clutter. Her flashlight cast eerie shadows on the walls. "Let's see if we can find more clues." She pulled an old photo album from a box and flipped it open, revealing black and white images of the Blackwoods family, their sad eyes staring back at her. Suddenly, a loud bang came from the far corner where the shadows seemed darker and more menacing, making Jenna jump. "What the?" Jenna said, spinning around. She moved towards the door. Her breath came out in visible puffs as the temperature dropped sharply. She could see frost forming on the walls. Jenna's heart pounded in her chest, her fear mounting. Then she saw it. A large, dark figure standing just beyond the reach of her flashlight. It was tall, but obscured by the shadows. Jenna froze, unable to tear her eyes away. "Who are you?" The figure didn't respond. Jenna took a step back and turned to run, the door slamming shut. With a crash, Jenna tried the doorknob in vain. The figure began to move towards her. "You wanted ghosts," his voice hissed, "but instead you got demons. Be careful what you wish for." "Please," her voice broke. "Let me go." The figure laughed, a hollow sound that echoed through the basement. "You wanted the truth," it said, "and now you have it." Jenna's blood ran cold. She stumbled back, eyes wide with terror. It was almost upon her, shifting and twisting in the dim light. She fumbled for her camera, wanting her viewers to see. As soon as the camera focused on him, it disappeared, leaving only an eerie shriek in the wake. Heart pounding in her chest, she fumbled with the doorknob, opening easily. Jenna bolted out, still recording as she fled up the stairs. Jenna's breath came in gaps as she stumbled out. She slammed the basement door and gathering her thoughts. The figure's laugh still echoed in her ears as its glowing eyes burned into her soul. "God, help me," Jenna whispered. She scrolled through her phone, her fingers barely able to press the buttons. She found the number she was looking for. "Hello? Maggie," Jenna said, frantic. "It's Jenna. I need your help." "What's wrong?" Maggie asked. "This house is possessed," Jenna cried. "I need a priest. Now!" There was silence for a moment. "Seriously?" "Yes, Maggie, seriously." "Okay," Maggie said. "I know someone, Father Michael. He does exorcisms. I'll call him and send him to you." "Thank you," Jenna said, her voice breaking. "Hang in there, Jenna. He'll be there soon." Jenna hung up, sinking to the floor, her back against the front door. She tried to steady her breathing, but the fear clung to her. She waited, every odd creak making her jump. It felt like hours. But finally, there was a knock at the door. Jenna opened it to find a middle-aged man in a black shirt and white collar. He held a small, worn leather case. "Father Michael?" Jenna asked, her voice trembling. "Yes," he replied. "Maggie said you needed help." "Yeah," Jenna said, closing the door behind him. "Tell me everything," Jenna explained, her voice trembling. Father Michael listened intently. "Exorcisms aren't to be taken lightly. They can be dangerous," he said. "I can't live here knowing that things here." Father Michael nodded. "Let's begin the ritual." Jenna swallowed and nodded. He opened his leather case, revealing a crucifix, holy water, and a worn prayer book. He handed Jenna the vial of holy water. "Keep this with you," he instructed, "for protection." Jenna nodded, taking the vial with shaky hands as they descended the steps. "Et ne nos induca in tentationem." The airworm in the temptation. Basement changed as the priest started chanting, the Latin words echoing off the cold, damp walls. Jenna clung to the holy water he had given her. "Sed libera nos a malo." The temperature dropped as cold swept through the basement. Jenna shivered, feeling the icy breath of the unseen entity. The shadows grew darker. A deafening roar erupted, shaking the walls as dust and debris rained down. A force slammed into them, sending them sprawling. The air crackled with energy. "Sancte Michael Arcangele," the priest gasped. "Defende nos in proelio." The air pressed in, then released outwards as the house exploded. Coming to, Jenna found herself on the cold basement floor. She groaned, every muscle aching. The priest lay a few feet away, stirring. Jenna looked around in shock. The house was gone. Debris scattered in all directions. They were in the center of what had been the basement, now a barren slab exposed to the sky. As she stood, her gaze fell on words in the concrete. Squinting, she moved closer. They knelt to examine an inscription deeply carved into the concrete. "It's an explanation," the priest said. "This slab of concrete, it's covering the pit of the abyss of Satan and the other fallen angels." The priest leaned in, squinting at the foreign language beneath, the English inscription. "This is ancient Hebrew," he says. "It's the seal of God that keeps the fallen angels from being released." "Look," Jenna said, pointing at the center of the seal. "It's cracking." A small crack appeared in the center, widening slowly. The priest's face turned ashen as it grew like a spider web, expanding, jagged lines splintering outward, accompanied by guttural groans. The ground shuddered, throwing them off balance. "We have to get out of here!" the priest shouted. "Now!" The concrete buckled as the crack grew wider. They stumbled backward, the ground trembling beneath their feet. Putrid, sulfuric stench wafted up from the cracks. Jenna's eyes filled with tears as she clung to the priest. "What have we done?" the priest shouted. "It's going to break open any second. Hell's about to be released. Literally." She looked up at the hole's edge, now seemingly miles above them, the walls steep and crumbling. "Over here," the priest said. He pointed to a section where the ground seemed more stable, a narrow ledge that might offer a chance to climb. Jenna nodded, and they made their way towards it. Each step, a battle against the shifting earth. Jenna slipped, but she clawed at the wall with her free hand, finally pulling herself back onto the ledge. Safely out of the hole, Jenna's eyes drifted over the debris, landing on the house plaque. All she could read was B, C, Y, as most of the letters were covered in soot and grime. "Oh my God," Jenna said, trembling. It was a warning. "Be careful what you wish for." She saw her and the priest's vehicles still intact. She scrambled to her feet, pulling the priest up. They stumbled across the debris. She fumbled with her keys, finally sliding the key into the door. She slid into the seat, but before shutting the door, she felt a coldness touch her leg. Jenna, frozen with fear, felt the ice worm up her leg and into her belly, paralyzing her. It spread through her body, mind, and soul. Jenna watched the priest's car fishtail out of the driveway. A slow smile crept across her face. "Only a matter of time now." Her voice no longer recognizable. "Witches get stitches." The tea house was full of women sipping from cups and pouring from various teapots. Mona, Heptonstall, winced. She didn't have any money to buy a drink. She didn't have any money at all. She was only a young schoolgirl. But the sight of all these women put her at ease a little. And God knew that she needed somewhere to feel safe right now. Mona ducked into the shop, past the few tables outside, occupied by little old ladies sitting in the shade. The aroma inside the tea house was exotic and familiar, exciting and cozy. Steam wafted from the rims of mugs, none of which were matching. It was as though the owner had put serious effort into ensuring all crockery sets were different. Women sat clustered into groups and pairs, chatting away. Some sat solo, unconcerned with their lack of company. They smiled, contented and closed-eyed, into the sunshine while sipping their brews. On the walls, various posters and flags hung. There was something about flowers and plants here. There was something about animals being friends there. The symbol for females, the circle above a cross, was here. Rainbow flags and a flag with light blue, pink, and white stripes hung there. Plant pots housed a forest's worth of greenery, growing in every direction. The flowers crawled up stakes and dangled from shelves, and dog-eared books about cooking, herbology, feminism, and equal rights were everywhere. Mona's thudding heart slowed, and her stitched-up eyebrow settled into a steady pulse. This tea house was a nice place, a good place, one that she imagined that grubby Gilbert wouldn't think to check. She glanced over her shoulder out the window into the sun-drowned street outside. Grubby Gilbert Boyd came plodding along as if on cue, a frown etched upon his bovine countenance. His pot belly bounced as he slowed to a trot, his head jerking around like a pigeon's. A bead of sweat trickled down his forehead. Beneath his food-stained shirt, his chest rose and fell with heavy breaths. His eyes passed over the tea house, and he didn't seem to register it was there. Then he moved on. A few seconds later, Gilbert had passed the shop and disappeared down the street. She couldn't help but grin at the boy's stupidity. If only it were always that easy to escape his chubby fingers. Everyone, her teachers and parents, said he only picked on her because he liked her. He pushed her and pulled her and tripped her up because he fancied her. To Mona, this had made no sense whatsoever. First, why would you do those things to somebody you liked? Second of all, what kind of excuse was that? She had to endure this unhappiness because of the reason behind his actions. Besides, even if he had asked her out, she didn't think he was all that interesting or good-looking. She wasn't interested. When she'd split open her eyebrow after he'd stuck his leg out last week, she hoped that'd be the end. Alas, grubby Gilbert didn't give up. She stepped to the side to watch him trot down the street. She walked right into a table whilst she gazed in the opposite direction. Mona squeaked, timid like a mouse. As time slowed around her, the table toppled over. The mugs crashed to the floor and disintegrated, spilling hot tea over the rug. The flowery doily drifted to the ground, where the liquid stained it brown. The two women flinched backwards from the carnage and squealed. They escaped the flying china unscathed, but lost their beverages to gravity. Mona gasped, wide-eyed, hands raised in self-defense. Oh no. Oh no. 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 This accident was not good. Not good at all. She had no money, nothing with which she could make amends. She tried to think, speak, and act. But fear rooted her to the spot. A woman with a tea towel draped over her shoulder came marching up to the scene. The woman was tall and had an out-there fashion sense. Her long hair, which she'd tied up into a bun, she'd dyed electric blue. Her eyebrows and her eyes were coffee brown. Tattoos crawled up both arms, under the sleeves of her dress, and up the sides of her neck. The dress was black, with a flowery design, both gothic and summery. A hoop dangled from her nose, and more piercings than Mona had ever seen dotted her ears. She took the tea towel and dropped it into the puddle, which disappeared. Before Mona could blink, the table was upright, its doily pristine, and the mug shards were gone. The blue-haired woman called to a younger girl who was busy behind the counter. "Sabrina, another ginger tea and a peppermint tea for this table, please." On the house, of course. Mona shriveled before the sight of her. Adults always seemed big. Despite being no taller than the other grown-ups, this woman seemed like a giantess. Some unknown qualities made her presence more clear. She squeezed her hands together, averted her eyes, and awaited the tongue lashing. "I'm Alice Wallaker, and this is my tea house. Do you mind answering a few questions? Oh God, oh God, oh God. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to. I'm such an idiot. I'm such a stupid idiot." Alice silenced her with a wave of her hand. She smiled. "Never mind about that, Mona. Don't cry over spilt milk. Unless if it's for a black cat. What's your name, sweetie?" Something cold and jagged inside Mona began to melt. Calmness washed over her. She looked up into those warm brown eyes and didn't see the hostility she expected to find. "I'm Mona Heptonstall." Alice's eyes rolled over her every feature, settling on the stitches in her eyebrow. An odd look sparkled behind her kind eyes. "And what's his name, Mona?" Mona took a sharp inhale of breath. How did she know? Mona debated lying and telling Alice that there was no him. She was fine, and nothing was wrong. She soon abandoned this then entertained the thought of giving the woman a fake name. But then that flittered away like a bat on the night's breeze. In the end, Mona told the truth. Gilbert Boyd. Alice wrinkled her nose as though she knew the boy already. She inhaled through her nose, then out through her mouth. She bent down, picked up her tea towel, now bone dry, and slung it over her shoulder again. Come with me. Uh-oh. Here it came. This point was the moment that Ms. Wallaker would call the police, and they'd take her away. The cops would call her school, and the school would tell her parents. She'd be in so much trouble because she wanted to escape Grubby Gilbert. Alice ushered her through the packed tea house with a gentle hand on one shoulder. It seemed that every pair of eyes watched them go with hungry curiosity. And something else was in those gazes, too. Alice took her into the back of the tea house, past the telephone. Mona opened her mouth to ask, but then closed it again. Alice opened a door near the back of the building and led her down a beautiful wooden staircase. Despite their descent, the sunlight seemed to grow stronger. It shined through windows that should have been underground. She pushed open a grand pair of double doors and brought her into. Mona frowned. A library? Alice turned to face her. She stretched her hands out either side of her, as if reaching for the walls. Behind her, shelves of books stretched on for an impossible distance. Here and there bustled all kinds of women. They scanned shelves and pored over forgotten tomes. Some looked happy and healthy. Others looked battered and bruised. Expressions ranged from interest to anger. A middle-aged woman with a black eye gritted her teeth and flicked through the pages of a thick book. Nearby, a granny chuckled into her stack of open books, mumbling about teaching the bugger. Yes, said Alice, a library, a special library, a secret library containing hidden knowledge for people like us. Like us? Alice smiled. Women. Now, Mona understood what had been in the eyes of all those women as Alice took her through the tea house. Sympathy. Sympathy and understanding. They'd all been in similar positions before, too. They knew how it felt. And when they saw a little girl experiencing the same, they couldn't help but send their hearts to her. Her mouth dried up. Only for women, Alice nodded, then turned and beckoned her. Come, we can find something to help your predicament. We have a little something for everyone, from ailments to revenge. But something gentler might be a good starting point for you. Mona paused. You're going to help me? But I wrecked your tea house. Alice surprised her by laughing. Oh, Mona, you didn't wreck anything. Besides, you were seeking shelter, weren't you? Well, you found it. Mona found herself laughing too. A few minutes prior, she'd never felt less like laughing. But being around this woman had eased her wounded heart. It was as though she were magic. She stopped dead in her tracks. Are you? Alice turned, eyebrows raised, mischief written in the color of her cheeks. She said nothing and waited for Mona to ask. She blurted it out. Are you a witch? Alice's eyes danced. Why, of course. All the best women are. She'd expected to feel terror, coldness, claustrophobia. This woman was into the dark arts. Alice practiced magic and witchcraft. She ought to be frightening. And yet, she wasn't. At least, not to Mona. But she thought Alice could be scary to the right or wrong kind of person. The sort of person like Gilbert Boyd. And the types of people Gilbert Boyd would grow up into if left unchecked. But to Mona, she felt as if an umbrella of love had opened over her head. Not only was the rain no longer falling on her, but the sun shone through the material. Mona followed the witch deeper into the library. What kind of help, Ms. Wallaker? Alice hummed and scanned the shelves, pointing at them as if eyeing a police lineup. At last, she said, "Aha," and produced a book from a shelf. It wasn't quite Baby's First Seance or Witchcraft for Dummies, but close enough. A beginner's book, an entry point into the dark arts. Only, were these arts dark? Or had men labeled them as such? Mona took the book, feeling the weight of power crackling through her fingertips. She couldn't help but utter a contented sigh. Alice opened the book and slid a finger down the index page, tapping on certain words. Like this, Mona. There's some powerful stuff in here. Stuff that I wouldn't share with a boy, no matter how old he was. But you can handle that responsibility, can't you, Mona? Mona decided that she could.